Okay, Brad, tell me about your residency.
When I moved to the island, the reason why I moved to the island was because of the island nature. Here it's just beautiful. I remember when I did a residency here 5 years ago, it was beautiful and I loved the island. And then I started to venture out and go for a hike here, go to a lake here, and I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. But it was when I went to the west side of the island to this old growth forest called Avatar Grove, and it was like walking into a cathedral. People go to Europe to see, stone cathedrals, and for me that was like my cathedral. I was just blown away. And all I wanted to do is make work about this ecosystem here. The ocean, the old growth forest, just the rugged terrain and just the biodiversity here. And so my family and I moved here, and I dreamed of starting a residency. I love doing them. I love being around artists, and I thought it'd be really interesting to do that. But where I lived on the prairies, nobody wants to come to the prairies. It's cold for 6 months of the year. It's flat. It's not exciting. But then when we moved here and we settled and lived here for a long time, I was like, yeah, this would be a really fun place to have a residency. And so we worked for a few years, saving, planning, and all that, and making sure it was the right fit for our life. And then we started it a year ago and got going.
Nice. How did you name your residency, a position and retreat?
Yeah, so I was bounced a lot of ideas, and I may still change the name someday, I don't know. But I did a residency. The very first residency I did was at the Banff Center for the Arts, maybe 2012. And it was in collaboration with Documenta 13, which is like a huge art festival. And so they were bringing a whole bunch of the artists from Documenta to Banff to think about theory and art, exchange ideas. And so I got accepted to go there. And it was called a position on retreat. So that was sort of the philosophical framing of it. And living out on the island, it's been a retreat for me. Like, we moved here during the pandemic, and so we were retreating away from, a lot of social activity and life and all that. We lived out in the country, and it just felt like a lot of artists like myself like to retreat into nature. Like, you find sustenance and you find it sustaining and regenerative. So I like the idea of bringing people to the island and then bringing them out of the main cities that you'd be at into Lake Cowichan here, which is, it's a smaller place, but there's still enough around that you're not just out in the woods and you're like, oh, what do I kind of do? But, you're sort of, you walk 10 minutes in any direction, you're out of the town and can be out in nature. So it was a little bit of that. I think it's still a little too long of a title. It was just when I was setting up the corporation, I was like, they ask you for all these names, so you have to give a whole bunch of different names. And that was the one that was free, and they were like, hey, take this. And I said, sure. So we'll see. It's a wordy title though, so.
Yeah, it's a nice title that kind of captures the idea of being in the nature and also like retreating yourself, like all the ordinary life that you had before. Who were the interesting artists that you hosted here so far? You've been running it for a year now, right?
Yeah, so it's been really cool. Like, just, what's fun is that you get artists at different points in their career. So you have I've had artists, I had an artist from Australia. She's 19, she's full of energy, and just beginning her career. Like, she showed up, she messaged me, she's like, I want to come 2 days from now. I'm like, you can come from Australia in 2 days? And it was right at Christmas, so it was the residency was very full, and there was a couple people here, and I didn't believe she'd actually show up, and she did. So that was really fun to get to meet somebody at the very, very beginning of their career, just in art school, and looking for experiences, and then having artists that have been in the Venice Biennale, and artists that are on the cutting edge of technology and creative practice. And so you just get all kinds, and then you get people that are coming that are retired and just enjoying having a creative phase in their life, that have done different careers and then come. So it's been just really fun. And then you have all kinds of different mediums. You got people that are writing, you got people that are doing digital work, you got people that are making films, you got people that are painting, and we got a musician coming next week. And so it's just really invigorating. I've had musicians come before too, so it's been just fun just seeing all these different practices. And then it's cool seeing the island, which I really love, reflected through so many people's practices too, in different ways. And so that's really cool too.
But all kinds of different people come together in the same space and then stay long period together.
Yeah.
How does the interaction come together? It must be kind of different every time in each cohort.
Yeah.
Do you remember any specific, very special cohort?
Yeah, well, one that jumped out, the 1 month that really caught me, so many people came because of mushroom season. And so there's filmmakers here, there was a digital artist that was 3D scanning mushrooms to make a mushroom catalog, and people doing time lapses, people were drawing. It was this whole month around mushrooms because the Pacific Northwest is known for its mushrooms because it's so wet here. And the fall is the time when the bulk of them come out. And so that was really fun, and there was such camaraderie amongst the group. Like, they were out every day. They had multiple vehicles, and they would pair up, and they would go to do these different locations, and they'd be shooting. Some people would leave at 6 a.m. and come back at 2 a.m, and they'd go across the island, and they'd go all the way to Tofino, which is a really long drive, do their work, come all the way back. And that was an energetic month. The weather was pretty wild too, so we had to deal with a lot of wild weather that month. But yeah, that was definitely a memorable month. Then in January, I had a really cool AI month. It wasn't expected. They were all traditional artists, but they fell in love with, we set up an AI software on the computer, and everybody was learning about AI. And then other artists were popping in as they were leaving, and then they would start playing with AI. So it was this really spontaneous artificial intelligence month, which was pretty cool. And they were all painters, so then they were thinking about how they can incorporate AI to lay down compositions and run through ideas and things like that. So that was a cool one too.
Yeah, that's something that I'm trying to do as a traditional painter, and then installation artist, and then I'm expecting a few cool artists to come join me. I don't know if they're gonna be interested in AI or AR, VR, but I hope we find something in common, and then make some creative spark together. Yeah.
But new things emerge every month with every new group, and it's different communal dynamics and different cooking patterns and different artistic patterns. Like, sometimes people just want to be alone, sometimes everybody just wants to be together, and forms like this room keeps becoming this really big communal space. Like, I didn't think this would be the main studio space, but people will bring desks in, and I think we will get 2 more desks here actually pretty soon, like in the next couple weeks. So then more people can just work together. Like, a lot of people just like sitting in the same room together. So.
Right, that's an interesting point, because you have a big spacious studio space downstairs too. And then you're hosting 4 people in how many rooms? Like, we've got 3 here.
And then one down.
One down. And then there's an extra room that I saw. And then
we haven't figured out what to do with that. I think eventually it'll be a bad room when we get more studio space, but right now it's sort of in a flex room where people sometimes turn it into an office. Sometimes people paint in there. So we're still trying to figure out what to do with that one room. I think eventually it'll be a bedroom, but we just need more studio space.
So much space to play with. And have you found any interesting way of using the space that you provide? Like, in the garden, there's a garden in the backyard, and then patio space there. Like, so much space that we can utilize.
Yeah, well, a large part of the residency so far has been run during the winter, so people haven't ventured outside as much. But in August last year, like, the artists, they would be painting inside, and then they had this little communal area where they set up all this furniture outside, and they'd sit outside and hang out and cool off, and then they go for a swim in the river, and then come back and do more stuff. So that was kind of cool, watching just the whole house open up in a certain way, and just the sunroom seems to be a popular place where new things happen. Like, one person turned it into a photo studio and diffused some of the light coming through and moved things around, and then another artist set it up as a 3D scanning space. They had a whole setup and a lazy Susan that would turn objects, and the sunroom. And then the sunroom has been popular. Some people just use it as an office, but it's been a pretty dynamic space. This living room has been the most active, changing space though.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I know you participated in some of the artist residencies before starting your own, right? Do you think those experiences from the past influenced how you structure the communal space? Yeah,
well, one thing I did many residencies. One in the center, we've got hundreds, if not 1,000 artists there at a time. 100. And then I did residencies where there's 10 people, so you're kind of in a bigger, it's like a smaller institutional one. I've done ones where you're alone. I've done ones where there's 3 to 4 people, 5 people. And I really love, this one is the right size for me, of 3 to 4 people, maybe 5 eventually as we expand. But that sort of communal living situation, I always love those ones the most. And so I really didn't like the big institutional ones. It just wasn't for me. Some artists, they go there and they love it, and I didn't like that, living in apartments, and there was just too much. And I really liked just being in cities and rural areas and things like that, getting kind of living there. So that's how we modeled this one. And we've got longer term plans for developing it and growing it, but when you start anything, you have to figure out what you can do right now and then have a roadmap and build towards that roadmap because, well, unless you have a ton of money, but not a ton of money to start a residency, you kind of have to start with something and slowly build over time towards whatever your goal might be. So.
How your own artistic practice influenced the artists who are coming and joining the residencies, and then your domains, and then expertise and fields and.
Yeah, well, I do put it on the website that who I am and that I have experience in these different fields. Like, you know, as an artist, I work in digital media a lot, but I work a lot in traditional. Like my training was in like drawing and sculpture and painting, and it was like in my graduate work and my doctoral work that I got into the digital space in a more substantial way. But then I've also taught at universities for 13 years, and I've taught the whole gamut from like the very first level, like fundamentals class of like drawing and painting, through all the life drawing that you do, through sculpture, through installation, and then now a lot of like digital and video, so, and like photography, and you know, I've kind of taught every single thing you could teach. And so it's kind of like, it's a space where I haven't, one of the longer term plans is more education, like offering those kinds of opportunities. Is not quite there yet, but I definitely like to point people in the right direction of like, oh, you're here to learn Blender, or you're interested in AI, here's like some resources. And like, and then I always like, I like hanging out with artists, and so we always hang out and talk about things. Like when we're talking about AI in January, I talk a lot about my theoretical disposition towards AI, like how I approach it as an artist. Like a lot of artists are like mortified with the idea of AI, it's gonna steal all our jobs and all that kind of stuff. Bring other perspectives to that. Like, you know, when the photography came around 150, 200 years ago, people thought there would be no need for painters anymore, and yet there's painters. If anything, it made painting much more interesting because we had to branch into new areas because we weren't just going to sit there doing portraits all the time. And I think it was phenomenal. And so like that's one thing that I constantly try to say to people about like AI, like when we're having these conversations around that. And every group that's come through, we always talk about AI because it's always on every artist's mind right now. And so yeah, being present in these spaces with like some of my theoretical background, teaching, try to bring some of that in. And then like I do host salons at my studio, so I live like 40 minutes away, and I've got a kind of a cool studio, and so we have like some evenings there, and I show some of my work and people show some of theirs, and I have a really high fidelity system that we showcase work on, and it's pretty fun. So and I've been inspired. I get inspired by people. Like right now I'm painting abstract because I've seen some really great abstract painters come through, and they're like, you should have fun and just do this, and I never do it. And so I'm getting inspired by them to do that.
Oh, nice. Are we gonna get to see your studio too?
Yeah, I think we could plan an evening. Yeah, that'd be
fun.
Yeah.
I know, you're so busy with school and kids, and like also the residency. How do you juggle with all of the responsibilities that you have?
Yeah, it's tough. You know, so many people that are artists, but also just people of our generation in general, you have to have gigs. You have to have the day of, especially for creative people or people in our space and of our generation, the day of just having one job is not that frequent anymore. And so I sort of developed a practice where I've always had something at a university. So I teach at a university. I'm also a postdoctoral fellow at a university, and that's technically a full-time job, but it pays so low that you can't have it as a full-time job.
You need something else.
So you need something else. And so what I do is I block up my calendar, and it's from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. every day. I focus on just the residency. So all the emails, all of the invoices, accounting, scheduling, calls, all that stuff I try to book in, so that I'm always keeping up on that admin side of things. Then I have each day blocked, so if I'm running my nonprofit, I'll focus on that these days, focus on this day on my postdoc, on this project, go teach this day, and that kind of stuff. So really broken up schedule.
Wow, busy. Did starting a residency business change anything significantly in your life?
Well, it costs a lot of money, which is like huge investment. It's a risk, stressful. A lot of money you got to pay the bank, and property tax, and insurance, and business fees. Like there's all these expenses every month that you got to make, whether people come or not. And anything, I knew that it takes time to grow, and so my expectation for the first year was just break even. Don't lose any more money than you put in. Just get to a point where you survive the first year, and then hopefully you've figured out things, you've ironed out little creases and little things that come up that, oh, I gotta correct that. And then in that time, hopefully start further in the future, that then it might start being able to pay back some of the debt would be the dream at some point. But yeah, it's interesting.
But you pushed through it. You made it the first year.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
your second year.
Yeah,
So
well, we'll be coming into the second this summer. So
Oh.
working our way there right now.
Oh,
But
still in the first year.
yeah, yeah. But it's getting much fuller heading into the next year, which it just takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get any help from the community or the artists that you know, or you've been in residencies before?
Yeah, well, yeah, so the one residency that I did on the island 5 years ago, they've definitely passed along a few people. They said that they're full because they only have one artist at a time, so they have a much smaller roster than we do here. And
Sending artists to your place.
yeah, sending some ones that they're just, you'd be great, but we don't have any room, and but they really want to come to the island. So yeah, it's been helpful, but yeah, it's a lot of trial and error. It's like, is artists enough? Do you go to other sites? Do you have to promote on Google? Do you promote on Instagram? Trying to suss out what's the best way to reach people and communicate what you have to offer and everything. So yeah.
What are the learnings that you got so far when it comes to growing your resident community? How you differentiate from other residencies, and then how you make artists more satisfied with the experience and get most out of the experience that they have here.
Yeah, well, one thing I try to do is I try to be present as much as I can. I'm busy. My goal is that this then becomes more as I shed away other things, and this actually grows to a point where it's sustainable financially. Like right now it's just break even, so there's only so much I can do when I have to do other things to support my family. But definitely being here, I've gone to residencies where it's not even artists running, it's just people that are like, oh, this is a good business idea. It's like a business, but I genuinely hang out with artists and I teach lots of artists. I have a lot of collaborators that I work with. My practice is collaborative. I don't typically work alone. And so it's just really fun hanging out with people. So yeah, definitely being available to talk about things. We've had some just amazing conversations about art and philosophy and everything over the past year. And then really realizing that, I didn't realize this at first, but it definitely became apparent after the first even 3 months that people really want to come to the island. They have some sort of imagination about what it is, like some image of, and some fantasy in some kind of way about what the island is. And I think it often is what they think it is, you know, but people have seen it on Amazing Race, or they want to come to Canada, but they don't want to be in the cold, and so this is the only place that you can come where you're not going to be in 6 months of snow. And they've seen these 1,000-year-old trees, or they've seen the ocean, or something about it. So people come wanting to come to the island. So then there's this business rule or idea that it's often sort of this 20-80 rule, which is 20% of your time often will earn you 80% of your business, and then 80% of your time will only earn you 20%. So you always got to focus on what the highest value for your time is, and that's how you grow a business. You're always trying to figure out that growth pattern, so it's not just a linear growth, that you're actually speeding up and it's growing at an exponential way so that you can get to your goals. Yeah, really realizing pretty quickly that people are coming here for the island, and just leaning in, recognizing that. And then when you talk to people, just being honest about that and be like, yeah, we're growing right now, but we've got this island, and this island's not going to go anywhere. And so come and enjoy the island, and then slowly build the other things that you want to offer over time. And so we kind of have a roadmap of where we want to go. And staying responsive, like I've been meeting new people, and they come up with new ideas of what you could do with artists and what you could offer, and then being adaptive to those new ideas and everything.
So location really matters, and then also connection to you, and then speaking to you about their project plans, and then what you want to do, right?
And it's been fun. But yeah, definitely, for people that are thinking about starting, like I have a friend who's like, I want to start a residency, but I want to start in Edmonton, Alberta. And I'm like, no one wants to go to Edmonton, Alberta. Like no one. You're gonna get them super cheap, so your operating costs are gonna be low. Like the operating costs on the island are as expensive as they can get in Canada, but there's a reason why. It's because people want to be here. People don't want to be in Edmonton. So I think you're gonna have a hard time paying your rent. You know.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you realize that in the very beginning? That's why you chose the place, because you wanted to live here.
Yeah,
too,
I remember.
Right?
I went to Argentina and did a residency, and there was like 10 artists there. And I'd done a number in a row, and at that point I was like, oh, this would be really fun to do myself. Like I hadn't considered it myself. And I was just so aware. I'm like, but I can't do it in Edmonton. That's where I grew up, and I did my school, and I was still in my PhD at that point there, so I wasn't going anywhere. Yeah, when we moved here, it was like, oh yeah. And when we really came to know the island in a significant way, we're like, yeah, people would. And it's not just that people want to, but it's like I want to offer the island to people to come and make work about it. I think that one thing in my practice and in my life that I care deeply about is the planet, biodiversity, hopefully mitigating huge effects of climate change and all that. And I think artists are really important in shaping the way that we perceive these issues. And it doesn't have to be about being an activist or a protest artist. It can be about reflecting something really, really beautiful and giving it meaning and value, and that changes people's relationship to the natural world or awakens them to it in some kind of way. And being able to bring people here and they're all making art about nature, not everybody, but a lot of people are making art about nature, and then they go bring it back to the rest of the world. It feels really good to kind of going out about the natural world. So like focusing on nature, I think it's like a nice thing for people to come, but it also like ripples out through the world, I think, as well. So.
Right. I've been also collecting these stuff from the walk that I have around here. Right. It's been so beautiful, even with dynamic weather changes from snow to.
Well, if you're on the Pacific Ocean, anything can happen with the weather. So it's pretty wild. But when we get you to other parts of the island, we'll really show you some really wild stuff. Around Lake Cowichan is beautiful, but as we go to the Pacific with some of the other residents, we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, and as for the nature, you have bears and then wild animals who come to the residencies and then in the garden stay in the backyard, right? Yeah,
we had a lot of bears in the fall when their season was coming to an end. They were eating our garbage and causing all kinds of trouble, and residents were scaring them up trees, and the police had to come to take a bear out of a backyard right next door here when I was working on the driveway. All of a sudden all these police showed up, they had shotguns, and I was like, what's going on here? And like, oh, there's a bear, we're just trying to get it out of the city. Because the bear had just actually broken into a gas station. It's like the most Canadian story, but the bear broke into a gas station and stole some gummy bears. And so it's like these bears causing trouble in town.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so, but it is like one cool thing about the island, and one thing you have to be aware of is that the elements, and this is something when I grew up on the prairies, I wasn't aware of, other than extreme cold that can happen, extreme cold, where it's dangerous. On the island, it's rugged. It's on the Pacific coast. It's it's all kinds of things that could happen. It's in the Ring of Fire. There's predatory animals. It's you're gonna be okay most likely 99.99% of the time. But it is something you have to be aware of, that it's different. There's big animals, and there's the Pacific Ocean, and there's tectonic plates, and
yeah. It's so funny. I know that you organize some of for artists to explore the area, explore the islands. What are the destinations that you recommend?
Yeah, it's definitely something I want to do more and more as I get more and more time for the residency. It would be my dream to be able to go every week somewhere. I love going out to the forest, but the favorite place to go is, and this is part of the reason why we chose Lake Cowichan, because it's right in the middle of the island, so it's only a 45-minute to an hour drive to get to the west coast. And if we were on the west coast, it's just so far away, artists couldn't get there. There's just, because there's nothing there. There's a town of 200 people, and there's nothing else on the west coast.
Only
so
200.
There'd be no, the grocery store, there's just nothing. So it wasn't a good place to start a residency. There's nothing past here.
I see.
The island is almost uninhabited. It's a very low density place in the world. But anyways, it's close enough. So we go there all the time. There's a really famous, beautiful old growth forest called Avatar Grove that people go to. And it's also, people come to make art about it, because right next door to it is a place called Fairy Creek, and it's being logged right now. And so there's been the largest act of civil disobedience or protest. It has been in that area over the past few years, people organizing and trying to stop the logging there. So you have this really powerful juxtaposition between a protected old growth forest, so you see what it's like, and then you see this area that they're just cutting these 1,000-year-old trees down. So there's an area of tension there. And then beside that, along the coast, there's this really famous hiking and beach trail called the Wandafuka Trail, and there's all kinds of really beautiful beaches and forests to hike through, and tide pools to see. And so that's where artists spend most of their time, is on that west coast. And so that's part of the reason, it's the main reason we set it up here. So it's really easy to get there. But then it's still easy to go to the east side of the island, Victoria, which is a beautiful harbor city, and you go to Salt Spring Island, which is a beautiful art island. And then you can go up island to waterfalls and other old growth forests, and you can go kayaking on the ocean with whales and seals and all kinds of stuff. So it's sort of in the middle where in an hour to an hour and a half you can go any way and be in. There's one area we haven't gone yet because we need somebody with a really good truck. I don't have a good enough vehicle. But it's a huge provincial park that's on the west side of the island that you have to take a 3-hour logging road going 10 kilometers an hour. So it's a long, slow, you get to be untouched. There's not a soul there, and it's all old growth forest. And so we got to set up an expedition to go there and do a plein air session or something.
Yeah, I remember the map. And then South Spring, do you ever go there with artists?
Yeah, so we went this summer and had a great day. We went to the market where there's all these artisans with jewelry and everything. There's just so much stuff to buy and see. And then we did a tour around the island and lavender vineyards and wine vineyards and just so many things to see. And it's a pretty special place. My family and I vacation there multiple times throughout the year. Wow. It's really nice. And we go there for little day trips just because you can just go, even as a resident, a half an hour drive to the ferry. It's a quick half an hour ferry over, and then you can drive around the island and spend your day and then take the ferry back at the end of the day. So it's really close.
So many places to go, and then it's like a hub that can go anywhere.
Yeah, and people use the residency as a home base all the time. Not so much in the winter because the weather's harder. People have, but not as many. But definitely from, really starting next month from March until easily into November is sort of like, that's when you can really, really be out and about a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any connections with the local community? I know there's like art center and then gallery and some communities out there.
Yeah, well, being a business owner is like my first degree that I did was in business, so I was aware of some of the challenges that go into it. But yeah, starting a business is different. I've talked to a lot of people with residencies, and they just start it up and they just start collecting money, and they don't pay taxes on it. They don't have insurance, they don't have contracts. People just think doing it that way, and I didn't do it that way. I got a lawyer. We incorporated a company so that there's liability protection. People are coming in your home. Anything could happen. We developed contracts. I've got business licenses with the city so that everything's above board. Got an accountant to set up all of the tax that you need to do so that you don't run into trouble 5 years down the road with the government and owe a whole bunch of taxes, and build all of these costs into what it takes to start a business and run the business. And so setting up a business, it was very technical and expensive, and you're sort of you got to make sure your residency zone, or where your residency is zoned for this kind of activity, because you can't do everything everywhere. And that's part of the reason why we bought this specific property, is it's zoned for mixed commercial use. And then we knew as time goes on, we could build a gallery, we could build more art studios, we could potentially, eventually someday, maybe knock down the whole property and build a sixplex where you could host 20 artists. Not that we want to necessarily go that way, but you could. There was options. And then you got to decide: are you going to rent a property? Are you going to buy a property? And each comes with their pros and cons. Obviously, if you're buying a property, there's a lot that goes into that as well. And so, setting up a business, there's a preparation to start this. It wasn't just
long-term goal is really big and ambitious.
Yeah, my goal would be multiple homes like this in Lake Cowichan. I like Lake Cowichan. The more time I spend time, especially in Lake Cowichan, I'm like, it's a very cool little town, and it's small, and you have this super beautiful, pristine, that just goes on forever. I haven't even been to the end of it yet, because it's just like to take logging roads, and there's not a soul that lives out there. And my goal would be to have several of these small communal homes so that people still live communally. It's not like a big apartment building or something like that. So you still have these little pods, but then you have sort of a central campus where there would be studio spaces, and then there'd be gallery space, there'd be teaching spaces, and then being able to just do this full time, where I could bring some of my teaching practice into these spaces, bring other teachers in that offer unique perspectives, let's say on nair painting, or abstract painters, or a sculptor, or a digital media artist, or all these different things to offer really unique experiences. I think that initially when I started this, I had only considered that a lodging. People come and stay here, and they want to be in the environment, the island, and they have some studio space, and that's kind of all you would do. But really, as time's gone on, it's sort of like, oh no, you can actually craft experiences for people. Could you have a nature focused one where it's like, my whole job is to take people and we'll go here and then we'll go there and we'll make art about all these different places and we'll document it and kind of make thematic ones, or do you focus on mediums and bring in people to teach and run intensives, and then people have places to stay and be here, and they maybe do an intensive and then the teacher goes away and they just stay and work for the rest of the month on whatever they learned in their practice. And so yeah, lots of new nimble ideas are coming up as people come through and you talk to more people. And I've done a number of residencies. I've done the thematic ones, I've done just the completely open self-directed ones. I've never done an intensive, but I've sort of been around them. Yeah, so it's really fun ideas down the road for sure.
Lots of art projects that you can kind of envision in Cowichan Lake, right?
Yeah.
The town. Yeah. Do you have any connections with the local communities here?
There's artists around. I met a few artists, but they kind of keep to themselves. And so I think when we eventually build a teaching and gallery space out front and sort of open it up to the community, I think that's what I'm excited is to, there's no galleries in Lake Cowichan. Even in the Cowichan Valley, where I live, throughout the whole valley, I don't think we have any galleries actually at all. So it'll be kind of fun. And even Victoria has very few. There's tons of artists on the island, but people don't necessarily show their art or come here for art. They go to Vancouver for that. So it'd be fun to start bringing the community in and things like that. But I think in time.
I think I saw the brochure the coffee shop.
Oh.
There are a few art classes and some of the things.
Yeah.
It's not too close, I think. I don't know, but it was Lake something, I think.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
But I don't know, but it'd be awesome for you to start own space for art classes and then inviting international artists to come here and we go here, right?
Yeah.
Have you had some artists interacting very intensively with the local community?
Oh yeah, we had an artist, she came from Hong Kong and she was here for Remembrance Day, which is for World War I veterans. Joined a marching band while she was here and marched through the city streets and with them, and everybody knew her at the pub. It was so funny. We went out for lunch at the end of her residency and everyone was saying hi to her and she just hung out with everybody, and she would take the bus and go into different towns, take the bus all over the place and just like spend the days meeting all guys. It was hilarious. So, but people have gone around and met different people around town, but we sort of kept to ourselves as we develop this right now and figured out what we're going to kind of be. But
yeah, but I envision that having some coming here can kind of bring some change for the local community too.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Like Lake Cowichan's a small, I don't know, I think they have like 3,000 people. It becomes a really big tourist town in the summer, so it'll be fun. A lot of people come from all over the West Coast to come vacation here to be able to offer some cool art opportunities and for them to see what's going on and do something different. I think do something weird with the town.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Anything that you wanna say about your plan or dreams?
Slowly growing it, starting with what we could, which is smaller studio spaces, but comfortable living. My wife put a lot of effort into making sure that my people were comfortable. I went to a residency, and this is one of my learning lessons. I slept on a bloodstained mattress on a floor with no heating, in my winter coat, in my clothes, with a shared washroom with 17 artists, and so not going for that and going for a nice, comfortable experience. But having a roadmap of kind of where you want to go with things. So maybe when you start a residency, all you want to do is just host some people, and they might be in a guest suite in your house and you're sort of covering part of your mortgage or something. But I was really interested in being around a lot of artists again. I got young kids, so I don't want to go do residencies all the time anymore. And so kind of still bringing the artists here. But kind of having a plan about goals to build towards and develop. And so we're starting small, and then we've got plans just in the next couple of weeks to build an outdoor studio and fix up some of the areas in the backyard so that that space gets activated. And I know I paint outside all year round when it gets nice, starting in February. And so I paint, not painting today because the weather's horrible, but develop that, and then so grow the teaching space and gallery eventually. And then once all that's working really well and the residency is running well and everything's working out financially, then making an investment to get another space so that you can host another 4 artists, and they would come here and it would sort of be a little satellite community. And then my dream down the road is my short-term dream is to 1, just survive, 2, to expand out in Lake Cowichan and make this a really cool art community for people to come and experience and have studio spaces and have really great artists come. But then actually to start just even buying very small 1 or 2 person spots around the island so that when people come here, like I said, one of my goals is for people to get to experience this part of the world, is then you could go do trips and there could be exchanges between other places. So you might be here for a bulk of it, but maybe you want to go up island and be near this provincial park or something, and you could go and spend a week of your residency there. And so we'd have all these little satellite spaces around and sort of move artists around and get them to experience everything. And other dreams like having a car so that residents could, not everybody has to rent a car, but it's expensive, and there's, once again, being a business, there's insurance things, there's legal things, if you charge money, then you have to have fleet insurance, you need to have contracts for renting a car as if your enterprise or hurts, and there's a lot of implications that, business implications that come in with even just adding a car, but it'd be nice to have a car, and this spring we're definitely gonna add some bicycles, but, so, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, goals. Long-term goals.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's super nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And final tips for the people who are thinking of starting a residency. I know you gave some tips about starting a business, foundation really well and from the beginning, and then grow slowly, and then learning step by step, and then.
Yeah, well, it's definitely recognize that it is a business and do the right legal things and make sure you're paying your taxes and make sure you plan for all the other stuff beyond just a mortgage payment. There's a lot that goes into it, dealing with the city and zoning. You have to think a lot about it and mitigate your risk. I think this is still what I'm trying to figure out is what is it that you have to offer, And like I said, part of it is definitely this island that I realized pretty quickly. And then, I don't think everybody needs a growth plan, but kind of having some stepping stones and I said the first year was literally just, could I break even? Would it cost a lot of money to start it, but not any more money to run it for a year and then move into the next year and then move into the next year and have different kind of a roadmap of what you'd like to develop and goals you'd like to have. So but it's complicated, for sure. And it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. That's for sure. And it's a lot more time intensive than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So takes up a lot of time to just break even. So it is more complicated. But different parts of the world, the cost of living is different. And the cost of living is your number one expense for running a residency. And this is one of the most expensive places in the world is the island. And so it's a tough in that respect. But if you're somewhere else in the world, you might have much lower risk to run something like this because your number one cost is housing, whether you buy or rent. So.
Right. But when it comes to what you can offer, I think you're just being humble to the part that you being an artist yourself, and then also have experiences in many different fields. I think that definitely adds some benefits or offerings to the.
Yeah, I definitely think. As we move even just past this first year, I think I'm going to really start figuring out what the business model would be to make sure that obviously my time is being acknowledged for the time that would go into this, but formalizing some really unique teaching and mentorship opportunities just because of my background with a wide breadth of practice and a very wide university teaching practice. Yeah, but the thing is, I've been wanting to move out of academia for a long time because it's so constrained what you can do in there. And also you're teaching people at the very beginning of their career, where it's like people come here and they're already professional artists, and they're all at different points in their career, but you can offer really different, more radical pedagogy, like teaching philosophies that could be really fun with that, or very different than what you can offer at university. So I feel like teaching for me has always been very creative, like a very creative space for me, like developing new courses every term, new ways of getting through ideas, and then always bringing new ideas, because especially digital media changes so quickly. So we'll kind of see how all that teaching comes into here as well.
Right, with the nature and then your technology skills and then all the expertise, I think I can totally see what's going to be.
Yeah, I want to have a very high tech, this place gets a lot of my hand-me-downs from my studio. But I think eventually when it starts becoming more than just a than what it is right now, but getting some really high-tech stuff here I think would be pretty fun.
Ooh, okay, exciting.
Yeah.
I definitely want to be a student for the classes that you follow. I think it's going to be very unique and very immersive, I think.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, with the studio.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you so much, Brad.